Hey guys, welcome back for another episode of I Am Legion Development. My name is Jason, the creator of I Am Legion for Dying Light 1 and 2, and today I'm going to continue my development. So we've had some great upgrades here in the last couple of weeks. So I am holding off release of the full 1.0, especially now that I'm hearing that there's an update coming out. So it sounds like there is an update in the pipeline. I could go and do a lot of this work, but the challenge here is that for the official 1.0 release, that's where I'm going to split the difficulties and create the overall balance for the three different versions of the mod. The problem with that is that it pretty much makes my job three times more difficult to pull that off, unless I can set up the scripts to where you select the difficulty. I'm still looking into that, but that is like a script by script kind of solution. So that basically means on every single script, I have to go in there and write the code that says if you're this difficulty, do this. If you're this difficulty, do that. And so there's a lot of challenges with setting that up. What I'm trying to do now is basically iron out a lot of the systems that I was hoping to develop earlier on. I moved pretty quickly through the updates. Hopefully, you guys have been really happy with all the updates that have been coming out. And so, because of that, I'm trying to do my due diligence and step back, make sure I get those systems in, make sure I get the work in, so that you guys can give me your feedback early before I go official. Once I go official, there are some changes. So somebody asked me this question the other day. So just to clarify, for the Patreon. So the Patreon was meant for everybody that wanted to contribute and be a part of this as development went on. A lot of people have jumped on board and have started the Patreon subscription. What I'm trying to do is once the 1.0 subscription or 1.0 release is official, and that split is out there, I'm going to try to switch over to start hearing a lot of the needs and concerns of the Patreon members, to understand what gameplay they would ideally like to have in the game and try to get in their feature development. So if they are a member of the Patreon, then they can lend their feedback and ask for certain features and that kind of thing. And I'm going to try to put my early efforts into trying to support their vision if it's achievable. That's kind of the challenge here, is that some things are, some things aren't. As we're going, I'm finding out what is and what isn't. And so I'm trying to let you guys know as we go, like what is actually achievable with the code that's been exposed at this stage. Just because it's exposed doesn't necessarily means that it works, and so that's one of the challenges that comes with modding for this game. So we'll see. But so again, thank you for all my supporters, for anybody that has contributed to this project. I really appreciate your guys' support. That has been a huge morale boost for crawling through this code. It's been, what are we at, 2 months now that I've been crawling through the code for this game, and it's been fun, but it has also had its challenges. So one of the things I'll be looking at today, so I put out the latest list. If you're not on the Discord at this point, please follow the links and head over to our Discord, join the community. We've got a great group of people on there. I think we're around 400 people now are on the Discord. Not at the same time. Some are off, some are on. But we've got a couple of people that have been on there that have been really just providing tons of feedback and support, and also have banded together as a community to also try to support everybody that has questions. And so if you're starting to have questions about what you can do, or if you're having problems, I'm going to try to reach out and help you with those issues right away. If you can't get a hold of me right away, then I'm sure there's plenty of people on the Discord that'd be happy to help you out. So if you have any questions, head on over. So I released on the Discord my upcoming list of things that I'm going to be working on. Let me go ahead and get this kind of staged so we can start to get cracking here. But basically, I've got a pretty good list of things that I've got marked out as kind of must-haves right now before I do the official release. I will say that some of it strays into that territory of like, well, what are you going to leave left to work on once we hit official? Well, it's an overhaul, so it's kind of meant to hit everything. It always comes down to how much time you got. So I'm trying to get through as much as I can and support as much as I can to make that a better playthrough for the next time you play through. With the updates that are coming up, I'm sure a lot of things are going to break. So it's probably going to be a day or two worth of development time to get that implemented. So please bear with me when that does finally release. I'm going to try to support that as soon as possible and get whatever changes they get in there, have those supported. So we'll have to see how that goes, but I'm excited about it. It should be good. Hopefully, we have some good updates coming. So to kind of quickly go over what is coming up. So yesterday I was working a little bit. I've had a very busy week. I was working a little bit on this concept of UV light and our AI on what they do when they experience sunlight and what they do when they experience UV lights on the bases. I've learned now how to separate between how they behave during the day and how they behave at night. So I am trying to go through each one of these different these different special infected and biters and basically write the code to where they behave one way during the day and one way at night. The hope for this is currently I'm having the biters lean on a lot of the infected code and so that they can climb and that kind of thing. I've already discovered that the climbing code, for whatever reason, they've got all that sealed off, so I can't actually do anything with the climbing code. But potentially what I can do, now that I've learned what I have learned about the Romero zombies, is potentially I can make them behave one way during the day and one way at night. So for example, if you wanted like Romero zombies during the day when they're under the sunlight, and then you wanted like runners at night, potentially I can get that in. It's kind of coming down to this challenge of technically they don't climb during the day. The animations aren't set up to where they climb during the day. So because of that, it's kind of a challenge of making sure that those systems are available to them. And in order to do that, they have to kind of take on more of the infected. But even the infected have parameters, maybe. So I think with the infected, I haven't actually really seen many infected walking. Most of the time, they're angry, they're sleeping, or they're running. So because of that, I'm still looking at what code they've written to kind of determine what I can do with the infected and what I can do with the zombies. But here is a list very quickly of what I'm looking at. So with this upcoming thing, so currently I've put out a first pass for the crafting system. That was to start looking at the loot system to determine, are people bloating their inventories with 5,000 different random items and then, only really using them again when they're meaningful? Probably. That it's kind of the feedback that I've been getting is that a lot of the objects in the game are not very important. They don't mean a lot to the player. I'm trying to look at this to say, like, how can I make this more meaningful? How can I actually make this something that you go, I got one, and you actually take the time to search, for those of you that like the RPG elements, because otherwise it's just kind of like pointless loot that you may need. And so the first pass on the crafting system was to say, you have to care about what you're picking up. You have to go out and search the world and try to find things. Next was looking at the separating things out into the optionals. So there were some optionals that I set up there with the HD mods and then the color settings. A lot of this early research I put out. I released it as part of the main mod so that you guys could get some testing in, so I could kind of find out, how you guys like these different things and get that feedback in early. If I had set that up as an optional, maybe I'd only have like 6 people download it, and then I would never find out, do people hate this? So I think overall some people didn't like the lighting effects, they didn't like the blinding light, and it was a little bit too dark and moody. And so it's now set up as an optional. The HD settings, I think, have to only be for people that have systems that can pull off the rendering for that many buildings and that kind of thing. For the slower systems, I think they were starting to have kind of the load-in time was taking more time, so I felt bad about that, so that's all pulled out. So that has been updated in the latest version. And then also removing some of the events. So for example, one of the ones that was in the world that hopefully is removed, I'm still waiting for more feedback, is like the bandit. If the bandit is beating up someone and then he runs away, you kind of if he's beating up a person and then a zombie kills him, you get the reward like you did something. Basically what I did was, as I said, it's a harsh world. You shouldn't really receive anything in general from this bandit out here beating the crap out of a random person. Basically, if you see him and he sticks around and you fight him, then it's just that. You fight him, you get his loot, that kind of thing. But I felt it was kind of cheesy now that the streets are actually populated to start, saying like, oh, okay, you deserve loot every single time, or you deserve a reward every time this guy dies. I mean, it's a pretty crazy world at this point. So I'm not sure we could go with that one anymore, but I'll keep looking at it based on the systems that I have. I took a first stab at looking at the chatter system where they're basically doing these taunt systems and they're talking to the player. I wanted to try to see if we can make this a little bit more realistic. They definitely kind of spam the airwaves by saying, "Oh, what was that? What was that? What was that?" And stuff like that. And so I tried to reduce that down so that wouldn't be such an overhead for players. Now, again, that we have so many spawned enemies inside the game. So what I'm working on now is basically we have this shaking bug where the NPCs are trying to execute something that I've given them. It's one of my custom methods that I'm providing them of go do this. They don't like it, and so I'm trying to crawl through. It's kind of hard because I've changed a lot with the human AI, so I'm trying to narrow it down to what it could be with human AI to cause that shaking. It's basically probably an on update is getting fired every single time kind of thing. For some of the additional things like the UV settings, so I released a video this week where I went through and started improving that UV system. Before, previously, if you started a chase, they would all start to stack up and they would all stand in the doorway and you could just basically mow all these guys down. I started on this and I actually really enjoy it, is trying to write very specific. It takes time because I'm having to go zombie type by zombie type and basically write their own custom, because they didn't actually include what happens with all the zombies if they have prolonged experiences with the UV. Probably because they were never meant to step under the UV light, because they were never meant to follow the player to the bases. So because of that, certain zombies don't even have the concept of getting under the UV light. Fun. So I'm going through and I'm writing certain or different scripts for each one of these guys so that they each behave a little differently. Things like the Banshees being able to leap inside the zone and do some damage, then running out. I love that. Having volatiles randomly run in, try to get in there and take a swipe at you. I love it. Things like the goon pretty much, massive dude, trying to make that to where he's in there for a period of time and then eventually he gets, kind of bored and he walks off kind of thing to wait for the player to come out. I like that. So I'm going to be working right now on this retreat code, which they programmed into these AI to where they basically run away until they die. So they run so far away from the camera that, or the player rather, that they essentially kill themselves off. And so what I'm going to try to do now is basically change that to where they run away a little ways and then they creep on you. So they sit out in the dark, you don't see them, they wait. And then I'm going to try to see if I can get them to where they keep an eye on the player. If the player comes out during a certain time frame, they start to go back after the player, but not in a chase. So the idea is that you've started a chase, you've pissed off the world, they've retreated away from your safety zone, and now they're kind of watching you, waiting to see if you'll come back out. And if you come back out, they'll try to kill you. So I like to add that little layer of creepy, and we'll see if we can pull it off. So I'm going to start there, along with balancing out the idea that they're not going to just stand under UV light and die. I think that one really sucks. So I'm going to try to get all these zombies out of the UV light and make them lunge into the UV light so they keep trying, but then they get out of harm's way so that they're not just sitting there dying. So that's what I'll be looking at here right now. I'm going to go ahead and share this with the Discord channel. I'll be keeping an eye on the comments and I'll be keeping an eye on the Discord channel. Please reach out if you have any questions, if you want to talk about stuff. I'll be here just kind of hanging. I'm having a beer today, so no marketing towards alcohol, but it's that kind of day. So I'm going to just have a beer and relax and do some code. So cheers, guys. So let's go ahead and get this here. Okay, to start, one of the first things is a file that makes the zombies react after a period of time. So if we go over here to our AI, our behavior places, not behavior places rather, it's going to be in my other one here. We'll say AI, behavior tree, context AI. We're going to add this to the search parameters. so that we can start scrolling through all of this. And basically, you can see here prolonged. Is it prolonged? Let's see. It's going to be with the biters, it's going to be under general. Prolonged. Messed up spelling. Prolonged. So you can see here that they only have the concept of prolonged UV exposure to the biter, the volatile, and the viral. So basically what I'm going through and doing first is I'm going through and changing these things to where things like banshees and all that will actually react. So let's go back. I've started a new branch, so these branches are continuing along with Git, and what we are working on right now is the improvements branch. So I'm going to continue on that. I have left the crafting system behind for now, only because the crafting system in the inventory, the weapon balancing, is definitely going to take the longest. So I'm trying to kind of pace myself with that one. Don't want to make any like sudden changes or really mess up anybody's weapons. I want to try to do that from a place of more realism and make that more challenging or make that more accurate to the overall I Am Legion experience. Okay, so if we go into AI Life, behavior tree, let's see if we go under Banshee and then general, you can see here that we now have this prolonged UV behavior. We can pull that up. We could already have that open. Yep. And here in a second, I'm actually going to go through and actually close out a lot of these. You see that once again, as always, I've got 100 of these things open. Actually, let me try to see if I can just shut down a couple of these. That might go a long way. That was not what I wanted. And the volatiles do seem to be also still heading towards the player pretty seriously. I've been testing this out a little bit more on my side. Basically, it's hard to tell whether or not it's kind of sporadic on my side to where I think the code is sound. I think the problem is that they're getting a spike where they're changing from their alert status. So their alert status is kind of changing quickly. They're getting that boosted alert status, and then they're seeing the player, and then they stay on high alert, and then they proceed to chase. I'm still trying to look at that to see if there's a way I can make that a little bit more realistic. But right now, basically at night, if you're moving through a space that you think has volatiles, basically the best practice is either use stealth to try to move around that environment, or try to keep moving and just don't stop moving. You can lose them. You just have to kind of keep running. So I am still, as with the early game, I am still trying to make this very much a night is dangerous. You shouldn't be walking through the city at night. You need to be running. If you want to do stealth, I've tried to provide those systems to where you can do stealth, but it's more about like, you know, how easy is the world to where you go out there and you can just kind of stare down at a bunch of, you know, hunters for a long period of time before they actually see you up there, kind of thing. So still trying to balance that out. Okay, so what I have set up here is that basically after a couple of seconds, the Banshee will try to run out. So the Banshee will try to get out of the light after a little bit of time. This helps with the idea that she can go bounce off the heads of zombies and dive in. And so she can actually still get at the player before needing to retreat. One thing I noticed is that the zombies tend to still walk into the light and kind of just stay there until they die. I think a lot of these problems are around the Romero zombie. The Romero zombies seem like they can't really get out of the light fast enough before it's actually a problem. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start reducing kind of their the amount of time that it takes for them to say like, whoa, hang on, wait a second, I'm underneath the light. So I'm going to try to lower this down. This should help with this whole idea of basically farming these guys underneath the UV light. And so, sorry guys, that will get a little bit more challenging. You probably will still be able to get a couple of them, but If you can kill like 100 zombies underneath a UV light, then that's probably, you know, it's probably going to be very hard to balance. So I'm still trying to bring that in. So moving over to the goon, basically from what I was looking at earlier, I need to confirm here. I've stepped away from the system for a second. So let's pull up our handy dandy Sublime. And basically what we're going to do is anytime I start on this, I go ahead and search for the system that I'm working on in here so that I have an idea of like where that information can be found. Most of it can be found under the main section for these guys, their main logic tree. And I've just confirmed that that is the case. So underneath their main logic tree, we need to go in here and basically improve this. So with the goon specific, the goon is going to be different where the goon is only going to react similar to the banshee. They're only going to do this during the night. We don't want them walking out into the sun and then freaking out and running inside the buildings. I want them roaming around. So basically what we do here, we'll start with the goon. And we will drag down their main file. We will go grab their behavior. Let's grab my new banshee one. So let's say prolonged UV light. Go to goon, go to general. Go ahead and say goon prolonged UV behavior. And basically with him, I basically want to throw him under the light for a good while, make him hang out under the light, and then eventually get bored and walk off. So let's see here. If we go to the goon general file here, which I'm already there, and then I need to make sure I get the exact condition that I've written for the other guys here. So let's go in here and say volatile. It's going to be the volatile BT, which is right here. Basically, we get this condition is night. And let's go under here. Basically, we want to, pretty sure this one's pretty high in the tree, usually under escape light. That's not in here. So basically, you have the reactions, and then down underneath, you have combat. So we're actually going to go right here. We're going to go into our prolonged UV behavior. We're going to paste this in. Say goon. So now we have the goon reacting to UV light. We're not done. Basically want to go in here and say condition is night. And then we just need to close off that sequence. So basically what it's going to do here is that when it gets to this part of the code, it's going to ask for the condition. Is it night? If it's not night, it will ignore this, is the hope. Basically, their condition. So I'm still trying to test this out. From what I've experienced so far, it works really well. So let's hope that remains the case. We're going to go back to the goon file here. Go over to general. Go to prolonged UV behavior, and basically we want to up this to like, I've seen a couple of people share their videos where the goons are just hanging out, running into the wall kind of thing. We want to try to get rid of that. So basically I want them to get inside the UV light, maybe hang out for like 30 seconds. And then if they've hung out for like 30 seconds, they turn around and they're going to walk out. And I actually might do trot here. So they have the system where they can trot. So we'll go ahead and have them trot. And then we'll have them search. So when they get out of the light, they'll go ahead and start searching for the player. Basically, if they get hit with the UV light, this will now make them respond to the UV light. So added bonus here that at night, you'll now have goons reacting to the flashlight. So added bonus here. And then the idea is that they're going to move back to a certain distance over a period of time. And they're then going to watch the player. So basically, let's send them a little bit further back. I've got the Banshees going pretty far. I think I'm going to actually move them up. So we'll actually leave these guys pretty close. The Banshees, though, we'll send a little bit closer. So we want those Banshees kind of threatening and challenging the players so that they kind of hang around. So now we have the Goons. They should be behaving a certain way based on the light. Screamers are kind of the same way. So if we go over to the Screamers, they also don't have a concept of being in the light, which is actually kind of nuts that they are absolutely a night creature that probably should, but they don't even have. Let me confirm they should have a react to UV. Do they really not? So Screamers don't even react to UV. So they definitely didn't intend these guys going very far. They really are just walking cameras. Let's go ahead and get them set up to where they're also reacting to the light. So we got to do a little bit more work for them to where they're a little bit more intelligent here, and we'll test that out and see. I did notice that like as you piss off the Screamers now, they kind of start to gather, they start to come in and check out everything. And so this should help with that a little bit to where they, it's fine that they want to come check things out, but basically it starts to get weird once they're just like dying right there on the edge. So let's go ahead and grab our other one. So we just did the one for the Goon. Let's go over here. He has the prolonged UV behavior. We're also going to need to get, I guess we'll do the, I guess we could do something like the, let's see if the Spitter has the concept of UV light. I think probably the Spitter would probably be the better one to go with instead of some of these other ones, because they're going to be a little bit too violent. I mean, these guys are going to be a little bit more, casually thrown back rather than like throwing their arms over their head and diving out of the light, kind of thing. They're not running. So we need to find animation files that are going to be a little bit more conducive to that. So let's see if we go into the Spitter, if they have the concept of, the Spitter also does not have the concept of reacting to light. So let me look here. Probably the Biters will just take theirs. And maybe I'm starting to, maybe I'm react UV. Could be wrong here. Let me go back. Spitters, reactions, UV light. Okay, never mind. I was in the wrong folder. My fault. So Screamers, reactions, UV light. Okay, so they do have reactions. That makes sense. I feel like every night creature should probably care that there's UV light. But so we basically are good for most of that work. We just need to go in here and say Screamer. Just do the same thing that we did with the Goon, which we're going to give them this, save that, give them this condition here. And actually, I think, yeah, it needs to be after the sunlight. So let's see here. Hey, Roland, how's it going today, man? Assuming it's the guy's name. Apologize. How are you doing today? That's what I should have asked there. Let's see. Screamer. Prolonged UV behavior. So they have the concept of prolonged UV behavior now, basically. Oh, nice. Oh, very cool. More power to you. Python sucks. It's very useful. Don't get me wrong. I just whew, doesn't sound like a fun Saturday, but that is definitely a useful code to know. The Under here, basically, we want our screamers to respond a little bit faster. So we have this, this whole thing about how they're. See, actually, I'm also going to join the ongoing development here so that other people on the Discord can also join. I don't always do that, but I'm gonna, it's the weekend. Let's get people in here. Hopefully talking. Let's see. Live streaming. Nice. Let's see. The screen, share, projector. Um, what kind of project are you working on? Is it game dev or is it something more serious for work kind of thing? For these guys, let's make these guys react pretty quickly. If we get underneath the UV light, they should respond accordingly. So that's our screamer. They should be now responding. Look like our spitters are also not supposed to do the prolonged UV behavior. Confirm I set this up. Nope, I did not. Why did I not? Screamer. Wow, I did it on the wrong one. You want? That's awesome. That's right. I think you were telling me. I think you were telling me before that you were doing Worldcraft 3. Amen. I am the exact same way. So that I completely understand, Roland. That makes sense to me. Speaking my language. Hey, Alex, how's it going, man? What uh, what question do you have? Apologize if I haven't answered before. Let's see, is night. It's a little bit larger so I can see if people respond in here. All right. Screamers should now react to UV light. Let's go ahead and copy that. Set prolonged, and I think I'm gonna probably just give the spitters the same thing. Um, yeah, so that's adaptation. Um, so Alex, I haven't been trying to ignore you or anything. It's just the varless stuff is like as far as going and making graphical changes, you never know how much you're going to brick someone else's computer. So I've been busy with the crafting stuff. So I apologize I haven't got back to you on that yet. It's called adaptation, and it's absolutely in the game. Basically, it looks at the brightness on the screen, and then it increases the brightness if you're looking at the sun, kind of thing, or a bright light. And then if you look into darkness, it makes the light dimmer. That's how your eyes adjust, kind of thing. So it's kind of fixing it. I know that's in there. I just haven't had. I've had a couple of people get on and ask, how do we basically remove some of the graphical features? And basically, what I'm trying to do is get past 1.0 before I start, taking on, very niche kind of requests. But I promise I'll come back to that as soon as I get a chance. I just know that a lot of people are waiting for 1.0 as well, so I'm trying to make sure I'm staying on track to get all this done. It's a good amount of work before then. Yeah, of course. If anything, I can let me actually just pop up another window here and see if I can point you in the right direction. That's assuming if you've messed with some of these files yourself. Let me, we go to bare bones, and then we go to scripts, and then the var list. Being in their contact shadows. Nope, absolutely not. Ambient. Nope. Probably not in here, but it was definitely a standalone file, but it doesn't hurt to see if we can at least figure out a name. Not everybody calls it adaptation, but here are the list of like chromatic aberration and a couple of different effects that they're doing. I've also turned off a couple of those things. So, uh, nope, not in here. Nope. Could be in the exposure. Here it is, adaptation. So under the exposure file, you should be able to find, let me make sure these are actually within view. I'm just kind of noticing these are off camera. Here's the adaptation rate. Basically, you can set the rate probably to like, I don't know. It might need to go higher. It might need to go lower. I haven't experimented enough with that system to know which way it needs to go, but you should be able to change these files to where they're no longer setting um, the exposure min and max. If this doesn't work, then maybe somewhere else in the var list, but it's kind of okay. I see that you're already looking here, so um, maybe going and searching through the files for adaptation. If it's calling adaptation here, then potentially it's setting adaptation somewhere else as well. You know, um, but gotcha. Let me know. Let me know if you find it. That would be an interesting thing to kind of keep on file. But some of those things they don't have activated, so because it's not working, you might want to actually head over to your var list because it actually might just be turned off. So most of those files control different aspects of the engine that if turned on they work. If they're not on, they're not going to work, obviously. So you might want to confirm that. What is it going to be called? It's going to be called the exposure. So you may want to just search through all the var lists and see if there is a matter of fact. It might be right here. Auto white, auto exposure, min max. So it might be this SCD instead. Um, you might want to try playing with some of these if you haven't already instead of the SCR. So this is like their definition files for the SCRs. But let me know if any of that works, and I would be happy to kind of keep that jotted down so that I know how to help people with that in the future. So if you have any updates, let me know. Okay, so screamers during the night care about UV. I think we were in the middle of, I'm going to leave this open just in case other people have questions. I can kind of keep my browser rolling. So let's see here. We now have a file for the spitter. And I think I'm going to keep them about the same, but this should make them react to the UV lights as well. We're going to go into the spitter. We're going to say, we already have one of these for the walking, but let's add this as well for the reactions. So one of the things that's interesting here is that they actually have the escape from sunlight lower in the stack here, which is interesting. So I'm really not sure. I mean, it is a selector. I'm really not sure entirely how they're setting the system up, but if this is chronological with the different things that can happen first, then potentially with the volatiles, let me go in here and say, let's make sure I'm sticking on task before I go off on a wild idea here. If I go over to the volatile, and bring up their file to other view. They have these files up here near the top, which potentially, if I grab their combat and I put their combat higher, so first they have reactions, then they have violence, then they have these other priorities. I want to add that and see if that helps with the concept that they can attack the player before they freak out about the sunlight. It's a very simple change that probably won't work, but I'm still learning a lot about how they're setting up their code in this system. So suiciders are also probably pretty annoying. If I had suiciders stack up UUU actions are queued up, I'm not sure. I'm so based on the selector system, I don't think it is, but I'm doing little things like that just to test. I don't, there's some weird things in here that I can't explain everything about why that's happening the way that it is. So because of that, yeah, I can't really explain unless I get a dev on the line to kind of figure out how they're doing something. So I think with the demolishers, basically, I think with the demolishers, I'm going to copy over what I did with the goons so that they follow the same general system. Exactly. Well, in all defenses here, Roland, I'm not crawling through Python code, so um, I have a less difficult day than you do. Plus, this is all for a game, so it's highly motivational, right? So let's say we need their main file. I've actually, I hate it, but I also have actually kind of come to enjoy working on the AI on their system here. It's pretty difficult and painful, but the results have been very inspiring. It's exciting. I'm hoping I could do more. Let's see, Spitter. Let's grab their sequence. So we're gonna let them go down to combat here. Let's go down below the other one. And they need to be demolisher. And we're targeting is night. So I guess the problem is that I guess the problem with doing the demolisher is night is that the demolisher spawns during a chase right now. If he happened to chase you during the day, you find one on the ground during the day. I still kind of want him to not get stuck on walls, but let's start with the UV light and see what the UV light gets us, and then we'll focus on just doing night first, and then if we need to dial him in. I haven't had too many encounters with daytime demolishers, so I'll need to understand kind of how much of a challenge that is first. Bolters, we don't have to worry about. Chargers, guess there's a chance that you could get a charger during the day as well. A lot of code for these guys. They're actually super simple. And I think I actually want to work a little bit more on these chargers just because they don't really do a lot. So let me read through your guys' comments here. Yeah. Guys, literally dive and face plant off of the feet. Yeah, so I think you're actually the one that responded to that, Alex, or asked if that was being worked on. Basically, the problem is that I'm upgrading the AI to where they don't have the intelligence that says if they're down below me, don't attack. Which I basically that's what I just need to add. Is to say if they're below me, don't go down there. And I think that'll probably fix the problem. So I probably just need to add that, and I'll jot down a note about adding that. The problem with that is that I don't think Bowman would attack down. I might be able to do it for melee only. I think the problem with this is going to be that the bowmen are probably going to come down off the towers eventually. I feel like everybody's going to eventually come down off the tower if they're seeing AIs down below. So it's the vanilla game. I thought basically made it to where they just stood up there and didn't come down, but I could be wrong. But I feel like now that they actually have better sensing, they're just coming down and then they're getting their asses kicked pretty quickly. So I'll keep looking at that though. Don't. I just recently was trying to write the code for sending them up, and that didn't work down from towers. For whatever reason, they'll climb for a lot of reasons, but when I tried to send them up for combat the other day, it wasn't working. So, whatever code they're using for retreating is working, but for whatever code they're using for attacking, turns it off. So I still have to kind of dive through. I would say for the most part, to be honest, the AI is kind of simple, just in general. It doesn't really seem like they have too much going on there, to be honest. Let's see, prolonged UI, UV. Grab his profile, or not his profile, but his mindscape. It's after escape sunlight. They try to escape the sunlight, and then they also have to then be concerned about exposure. So let's see. Backwards, charger. And then I think that might be it. We got the charger. I don't need to do the corruptor. I'm not worried about him. Humans, probably not. Screamers, suiciders. I think the only one left is the suiciders. I'm really not sure. I mean, let's just do it. I actually don't think I have much code for them right now. I've been trying to improve them. They're actually incredibly simple. Let me see if they have reactions to UV. So they do react to UV. So this will be easier. So let me just give them probably the spitter file here. Thanks, Alex. I really appreciate it, man. I'm gonna keep going with it, and I can't wait to see your feedback after 1.0 comes out. There's so many changes coming. Um, I'm getting ready to fire up right now, so I don't know if you got less than 5 minutes, but I'm getting ready to fire up. I just wanted to add this one last guy to the list. If we're gonna do it for everybody else, we might as well do it for these guys. That being said, I don't have the GRE experiments on here, so I'm actually curious if you guys have ever experienced a GRE coming up to the base. I think that's probably not likely at all. I gotcha. No worries. So suiciders at night worry about UV. The order? What do you mean? Here we'll say source. Let's go ahead and chop. So I'll use that last folder here to go to the main folder. Hey, Twisted DJ, how's it going, man? So the order for the vanilla volatiles was that they would react to the daylight first, the sunlight, then they would react to UV light, and then much further down the list was combat. I switched it to where they now maybe if chronological order matters, they'll care about combat more than they'll care about escaping the sunlight. So we'll see how that goes. Hey, that's great. Congrats, Twisted. When what day is that? Is that tonight? That's awesome. Congrats. I hope you have a blast. That doesn't matter. We all experience stuff at different times, Alex. All right. Yeah, legally. Okay. For all the reasons you mentioned. You're right. Well played. All I can recommend, Alex, is, or not Alex, but Twisted, is just try to have as much fun as possible and keep it, whatever's natural, just roll with it. You'll look back on it later and it doesn't really matter. You just have fun. Getting all personal on here, Alex. I'm just saying, if I had, I could just throw out one thing and just, fucking fun. You only have one of those for the most part. Some people have more, but it's really not that. As long as you have fun with it, because ultimately it's not going to impact your life as much as you might think. I mean, it could, I guess, if you meet your wife there. So just stay natural, have fun. All right. So here's you guys saw the little clip the other day where I was showing the goon outside the door. I love that. That was from the extra chase code I got in here. So basically we go up, we piss off this guy. Oh, look at his little walk. All right. Oh shit, this is not gonna work out. It's not gonna work out. Get off. Volatile. We got a demolisher off in the distance. Here's our little banshee buddy. Volatile buddy, I need this door open just in case. So they'll come up, they'll try to take a swipe, they'll fall back, they get in the light, they should run away. Basically they'll keep doing this little hop back dance. And then they'll keep trying to get in, which I love. Demolisher looks like he just doesn't give a damn, which is good because he's got 30 seconds. So he just tried to take a swipe. I think the Banshee disappeared, which sucks. Our Demolisher is like, F you. Certainly made him ugly. It's probably good. What is this natural thing or unnatural thing that's happening? Oof. What is that? Hopefully that's not where the UV code is trying to send him away. Like a pig. Excuse me. So the 30 seconds thing isn't working. And he's definitely glitching. Let's see if we can... Oh, shit. Yeah, that didn't work. That didn't work. That didn't work. That didn't work. Alright, so what if we shut this? So he sees like an active target, maybe. Shut that. Does he stop? Nope. Grunt, grunt, grunt. Grunt, grunt, grunt. Pig, pig, pig. His idle is messed up. Did anybody notice if this was before now that he's been acting like that? I haven't seen that before. Woo! Alright. Feisty. Alright. Just gonna keep spitting. He can climb up here. So the Banshee disappeared. So the Banshee didn't hang around. I think they're using the same retreat code as the Volatiles. It does suck about these guys. I do wonder if that's based on whether or not... Oof. I'm wondering if that's based on their climb code. So he's searching for a way up here and it's glitching him out. I really, 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 really want to try to bring defending the ramparts into this mod. That would just be amazing, I think. So, we run this way. This is good. This is good. Bidding, screen. Oh, and there's our Banshee. And for your question there, Alex, for do they get affected by UV? Basically what I set up was 30 seconds as a test for the Goon and for the Demolisher. I think basically that's getting reset though. Like they're maybe stepping out of it and then they're stepping back into it, and that's kind of resetting that timer. So it's kind of hard to determine whether or not 30 seconds is accurate. Let's see if we can get a Goon. We'll try the Goon out. Scream. Hurry up. Oh, shit. Hey, Ultra Dude, welcome back, man. It's a good point. I think, so I went back to the standard past prelog save game. I don't think he's got, yeah, he doesn't have UVs. So I'm going to switch over to the higher tier. Let's go upset. I keep switching around to make sure I understand how this is going to play out for everybody's levels. I do love the new Banshees coming up and diving in to kill my ass. Shit. Alright, get the door. I think I got a gun this time. I don't really feel like they're doing what they were doing last night. But I will say, I will say the fact that you could see the loot there is pretty minimal. You've got like maybe a couple of bodies out there. That's what I'm going for. And if I can get more accurate, that would be great for the different guys. But basically this whole like them falling dead in mass was kind of what I was originally trying to get better. And then I was also trying to make it scary. So, you know, we got a couple of these out here. You know, this is a lot less than what's normally out here, so. Where's she at? There she is. See what happens to her. She goes that way. Does she give up? Yeah, so she's using the retreat code. She's already like retreating out. That sucks. I'm gonna redo the retreat code next. With the combat for the volatiles, Alex, I'm gonna have to probably do the city and start looking at the actual interior environments. The UV light in Old Villador is probably not gonna cut it. I need to actually like go and try the indoor guys, and the sunlight, and all that good stuff. So I got to do a little bit more testing for that. Let's look at the retreat code really quick. Retreat. So the virals have their retreat. Most of the AI, for whatever reason, they all look at this viral retreat. They didn't write custom retreat code, so if you fix it for one, you fix it for almost all of them. It's kind of a nice thing. So this says, forces the condition that they should retreat from a chase. It goes through and gets the object's position, so the player target, or the chase target, which is only the player as far as I know, gets the local player, says this is the target, or gets the player, gets the position, and then it says move, run, destination, chase position, which the chase position should be based on the chase target. So fail if destination unreachable, up or down, stop at the destination, move away from the end position, sure, and then avoid regions, right. Okay. It's not really as complex as I was hoping it would be, in the sense that, you know, this isn't saying like This is retreat if they're too high of level. This is retreat if it's night. This is retreat. This is basically just retreat. So this should retreat from chase. I think basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to go here to the volatiles. And let's go to the volatiles and say they have this fun one where we say for long UV behavior, if we go down here, you see all this code is what they designed for UV light. I'm going to try to take this code and design it for running out of the environment and then pacing around and waiting. That way they don't run away. They just kind of move away and then they hang out. So let's go and paste that code in. Probably going to end up being right about this. We will say key. They're doing a key instead. The target last time in UV light is player in the UV light. We don't want it to fire the exact same way as before. It says require one, track, run until failure. So this is kind of nice. It's basically saying like keep trying. The problem is that it has this attack preset that this is not going to apply to everyone. This is very specific to the light. So what we need to do is go in here and say attack preset. Search for that. So they have banshees. Let's see if they have like a generic attack. Yeah, so that was what I was mentioning the other day is that, yes, correct. They were never meant to be on the interiors. And they have some very basic code that says whether you're inside of an interior or not. And basically that prevents you. I don't have access to that code, and so it does become a little bit more painful to try to figure that out. But I am trying to work on that to make that better, and that's actually what I'm doing right now with this UV light is trying to also improve that here as well. Oh yeah, yeah. No, they only set them up, and that's not saying that they never intended for them to spawn outside of chases. The release version doesn't have any support for outside of chases. Um, they have some basic like hunt down and search and move code and that kind of thing, but most of it pertains to the chase, which is why it's been very hard to set up the code. Right now where I forget who asked for it on the Discord, but basically where they're running everywhere, they're not crawling everywhere, they're just running everywhere. That's because their standard run code is designed for the chase, not for walking in the environment outside of the chase. So their like default movement is blasting through. So I'm still trying to work on if I can make them crawl around the city. But if you make them crawl around the city, they go pretty slow. Your chances of running into one are pretty low. So I'm still trying to like balance that out. But yeah, no, they were not designed to be in the game. Essentially, they were designed to be in the chases. Um, I also believe that's why they're not bosses or anything like that. It's that their code was not meant to be standalone. I was trying to catch up on some of the chatter on the Discord there. Yeah, they have the one encounter that you see now with the flare where there's like the red light and there's the one crawling around, but that was disabled. So I'm not sure what their intention for turning that on in the future was, to be honest. I'm gonna just bring in this code for now, and basically what we need to do is we need to say yeah, so the penetration code is exactly that. So there's a chance for it to go through the zombies. I set that to default off in the in there, so you shouldn't have that problem. But yeah, that can be the case there if you turn that on. Which, by the way, there was a bug with that, so I've actually removed that from the from my config, so that's not currently in there. All right, let's see what we get with this. And then with the demolishers, they had that glitch. Let me go in here and say infantry demolisher. Maybe they don't have the concept of running away. They're really only supposed to like kind of stand around and walk around kind of thing. They're not really supposed to run anyway. So potentially it's because I've got them running away. They're supposed to use the volatile movement now, so chase. Let's clear that files really quick and see what that gets us. I don't think it was the combat. It definitely seemed more like movement rather than combat, but let's see. Let's go ahead and launch. No, yeah, of course, Roland. Go ahead and shoot it over. Yeah, they should climb now, Alex. You're not safe. Nice. Very cool, man. That sounds like a great first step to a character controller. Thinking of that red flare experience. So they hit the light. Oof, oof, oof. That didn't work. Yeah, I was noticing that, Alex. I'm not sure if he took a different path or what happened there. I was looking for him. That's cool, Roland. Seeing how this is a separate system.
Wow.
There you go, and hey, Faison, how's it going?
All right.
To the thread. I'm testing out right now. I'm working on the UV farming to see if I can make this a scarier experience under the UV light. See if there's more opportunities for them to slaughter you.
Thanks.
So he's not running away. Chase is over, but they're still. Whoa, I almost got hit. They're still kind of lingering and trying. A couple of fighters too slow to get out of there. They're dying, but definitely not nearly as many hordes of zombies as were on there before. And they're just gonna keep trying. So what if we go in here? Let's lose their target. And I think it just them. I don't see him running away. I just don't see him. Alright. No, there's two there. Over. And they've switched to spitting. You can get me too. So they're still trying. So at least two of them. Let me see if I can find more. This guy's out here. Oh shit. Alright, so I think that's pretty successful there. They're not retreating. They're just going to keep trying. Oh. And they got me. I think at this point it would be interesting to look at starting to bring in where they use more of their spit. So if they're not able to actually reach you, that they can actually start just trying to attack with their spit attack instead of trying to dodge in like that. I mean, it does make them more dangerous when they dodge in like that. So maybe I can do like kind of a, maybe not an optional, but maybe a, to where it decides between couple of different ones. Oh, hey, Vic, glad to have you on here. I didn't see you sneak in.
What's up, man?
So, for the retreat system, I'm trying to figure out the UV, so the UV farming kind of goes away, but also makes that area more dangerous until daylight kind of thing. I think trying to do a, let's see, we have a sequence here that's running through to say whether or not they can see the player, but maybe with this melee reachable, I can go in here and say, maybe after the melee reachable, we go in here and say, condition, I think that they're setting this as M invert equal false. So if it's false, then we go in here and say, so if that's false, but they are in line of sight, then we go in here and say, no, volatile light attack, but volatile chase spit, attack spit. I don't think that's how they're actually calling it in here. Let's head over to here. Let's say find files. Bit. There it is. Chase bit. Yep. Don't want them to do the chase spit. We want them to do the attack ranged. So here it is. Well, this is the chase spit. Let's just start with this for now and just see what we get. So here, make sure they have a target. They should have a target. Yep, target, volatile spit. Then it goes down here and they move around. I like that. So if they go in here, say if they're reachable, melee reachable. If they're melee reachable, go in here and say attack with their light attack if they're in line of sight. If they're not melee reachable, invert true. Actually, I think it, and that's the thing is it M value or is it M invert? I think you can use either, but let's just see what, here it is. All right. Make sure we don't have any bugs here because there's a capital there, so that, you know, little things. So if they're melee reachable, the invert of true, which I still don't, Yeah, then they're in the line of sight, go into a range attack, and then I guess the challenge is this going to end up with them spitting at you like up on the walls, which that could be actually kind of fun. So let's go back in and say, and actually while I'm at it, we've added that to the retreat code, which probably is not the best place for it, considering this is what they're supposed to be. This is what they're supposed to be doing when they're retreating, quote unquote. So we probably actually want this under their volatile prolonged UV behavior. So we'll do it in here and just start to see what reactions we get here as well. Base. What's the cooldown time? This is their attack. Let's see. Following the conversation you guys are having on YouTube, I'm glad that it's cool to hear that you're also working on some mods yourself, Roland. I didn't know what you were doing. I know you were working on Warcraft 3, but I didn't know if you were releasing. So that's awesome. Faison, how are you going? How are you doing? I don't think I've ever actually had a chance to talk to you. I think maybe you came in once, but I'm not sure if we ever actually talked.
Not in voice chat, no.
Oh, voice chat. Sorry, I think my system locked up there where it was loading. I don't know if it came through. How's your weekend going?
All right. Just recently my mom died.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
You doing okay?
Yeah. Like been like a few days.
Gotcha. I'm so sorry to hear about your loss, man. I know that's not easy. I don't know if it's cool to ask, but like you got your people around and you good on that side as far as like you got people to reach out
Yeah.
to, all that good stuff?
Yeah. Okay, I take meds.
I know I'm a complete stranger, but if you ever want to vent, I'm just talk. It's cool, man.
Thanks.
Sorry to hear for your loss.
Thanks.
So I feel like they're a little glitchy. They're not spitting. Shit, I missed a scream. I have no health. How is that possible? 1 health. It's like barbecue. Wow, they just despawned right there. Interesting. So I guess if it can't kill them, if it can't get them to run away, die, they just despawn. Oh. Boom. Alright, well, they definitely, there's some right around the corner here. Oh. And I think I'm going to switch the save game back to a higher save game so I can start testing in the city and that kind of thing. I think this is pretty limited scope at this point. See if we can get a big boy out here. Banshee. 2 banshees. There's their side-to-side thing. So they're went into the UV light, and they immediately started kind of sidetracking, and then I think they ran away. Okay, with the banshees. Banshees need to have the exposure. They're basically, let's go in here and say treat, see if they have the concept. Let's go in here and say let's burp. Documented. Let's see. Actually learn about game design, or just going by what you personally would enjoy. Roland, are you asking about my previous experience before modding this, or are you asking about my take on the game and why I'm modding it the way I'm modding it? Are you asking basically if I'm trying to keep it lore centric, or if I'm just kind of modding it based on what I want?
Cool.
Roland, are you the same, or Faison, are you the same person as Roland?
Who's rolling?
Oh, never mind. Over in the so I'm on 2 streams right now. I'm on YouTube as well. So someone's asking a question over on the YouTube side. The combat, chase, AI requests. Do they have a concept of retreat?
That's some scary.
Some scary what?
Oh, this video.
Let's see. So we go over here to tree. Okay, so the question that Roland posed was with game design, he's basically saying like there's good game design and good design decisions with game design, and then there's fucking around with things just to see what happens. So I guess he's asking, am I just fucking around with things to see what happens, or am I trying to, use good game design to change the game? So, as a designer who's formally gone through design school, I would say that it has been drilled into my head that hopefully I'm using good design practice, but it's kind of up to you guys to tell me whether or not I'm doing it accurately. But no, so as a avid fan of the Dying Light series, I've actually kind of really gotten engrossed with their systems and how they're writing their code, and I think there's a couple of things. I think from a lower level, there's a lot of things that I don't understand why things weren't done the way that, I think most people would agree they should have been done. There's a lot of code in here that it's kind of like, what? Like, for example, the volatiles not existing outside of the chase. I mean, it's kind of their whole imagery as far as the Dying Light series goes. So why that was restricted down to only being in the chase system makes no sense. So bringing those back, good game design, I hope. Some of the different things I'm going around and doing is basically, I mean, you could say that you can either use other game influences to determine, like, this was a really good game, so I'm going to lean into these game mechanics to make this game similar. So therefore, it's taking the principles of good game design and trying to lean into those. But at the same time, I don't think you can always do that with different game engines. Some things aren't possible. So my approach, I think, from the overall outside is let's see what I am able to do, and then make the best decision based on the code that's available to try to make it as realistic or as stable as possible. I don't know if stable is the right word, but I think there's some systems in here that are like, they feel hacky for a full game. They feel like they're not fully thought out. They feel like they just kind of rushed those specific features, and they're nice to have, I guess. But if you rush through your features and they're not meaningful, like for example, the armor system, as Vic, who's on the channel, has pointed out, if you have a game that's similar to like Fallout 4, I love Fallout 4. I love Fallout 4 at the start of the game. As you start to get more and more into the game and you start looting the same stuff over and over again, it becomes, but to contradict that, they have base building. So if you have like, now you're looting the exact same items over and over again, you start to get into the flow of like, oh, I'll just scrap these items and use it to build my base. So then it's, let's go in a radius outside of my base and scavenge and that kind of thing. So in certain games, you can use weaknesses or you can use things that are annoying to kind of like build more game mechanics. Because, for example, with I forget who has asked for it a couple of times in this game, they don't drop the weapons that they have. So they could have made it to where they dropped every weapon that each AI has. Now that we have more enemy spawns, I mean, I feel like you would eventually just end up with every weapon in the game pretty quickly if they immediately dropped the weapons that they were having and they were using higher tier weapons, that kind of thing. I feel like it would break the game balance pretty quickly. So they have more of like a grindy system in here. But I guess what I was trying to get to is that there's a couple of systems in here that, from good game design principle, kind of meaningless. And so because of that, the game loses its flavor after a while because you're like, what else can I do? You know, I don't use any of this anymore, kind of thing. Like for example, coins. So coins are in the game. I've been asking people about the coins. People don't use the coins in the game, so it's kind of
I
like
use them.
Oh, there we go. We got a user. I feel like thank you for chiming in there because I feel like I haven't heard anybody mention the coins before. So do you use them for your stealth?
Oh, the coins. I thought you meant the.
Like
I
cash?
used to. Oh, the. It's one of those coins you flick, not the money you get to
Yeah,
shine.
obviously I feel like everybody uses the cash. I meant more like the coins that you throw.
Sometimes when I first playthrough, sometimes I do that just to
Sure.
take down owlers. And that's
Sure.
about it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's one of those stealth mechanics that like if done really well, then like for example, in the Metro games, they did throwing knives, and you know, you would only ever really use them in like tunnels and areas where you were using stealth. So that stealth mechanic worked really well that you had retrievable throwing knives in that system. But if you had a game where you just basically threw knives always and you just kind of use those as a main weapon, then it comes down to like how balanced is that as a weapon to where it wouldn't become annoying that you have to, bobby pin someone 1,000 times. So I think with all of these things, I think there's a balance. But creating an overhaul for a game is kind of where I'm enjoying myself for my day job. I work as a designer, as a creative director, to where I tie together our software team's vision and like what we're working towards, and I'm the guy that brings it all together to try to figure out what is the final product and how does it all work. There's so many times with like good code and stuff like that, it can get left behind if you don't account for it, and so I'm trying to like always go in there and make sure that we're using everything that we're writing and that the team's vision is getting into the final product. And so I feel like it's kind of the same thing. You had everybody's vision. They had all these different ideas and different features and stuff like that. And some things got implemented better than others. But I think you can just kind of start to find the threads that don't exactly go into the weave pretty quickly in this game. And you can either choose to pick at it until you make an issue, or you can try to weave it back into the system and make it better. So I don't know if that's a good analogy, but that's essentially what I'm doing. I'm just trying to take the loose threads and figure out how we can make it a little bit more meaningful wherever I can.
There's a lot of those loose threads in there.
It's a little bit of a shabby rug, but it's a good game overall. Shag rug. I meant shaggy rug. Let's see.
Okay.
I hope that answered your question there, Roland. If you have any follow-ups to that, feel free. So we have the concept of the bolters. The bolters make more sense because the bolters are basically going off into the distance and then they're just killing themselves off if you don't chase them. This is based on kind of a cell system, so based on distance, if you don't get close enough, then they disappear. That makes more sense for those guys than it does like volatiles. I don't really feel like the retreat system makes sense for a volatile, but
Being out in day, probably.
yeah, yeah, and then day, of course, is a good point. So, well,
Like,
actually, there's two systems here. So there's actually escape from sunlight, which is what they're using during the day, and then there's a retreat system, which basically says the player can't be reached. I'm gonna go run off into the dark and die. So the system I'm looking at right now is not the sun system. Or based on daylight. It's based on just I don't entirely know how they're even triggering it at this point. They're basically just like if they can't reach you, they're just going off and dying. Which
Yeah.
I think that was actually let me go through here real quick.
I have to go. I'll be right back. Okay.
Yeah, of course. Well, Roland, if you ever want to talk design, man, that's my life. That's what I love. I'm in software dev in my day job, and so I'm definitely a pro game and design enthusiast. So I'd love to always discuss that stuff because I think that's the way that you actually come up with some really fun game ideas and that kind of thing. So I think there was a file, and I remember seeing this a while back with the volatiles. It didn't make any sense to me where in the default code they tell the volatiles to kill themselves. After a certain point, they're just basically like you served your purpose. So let me find that code because that's probably where they're calling. Uh,
I have a question for you, Doc. I don't even know
yeah,
if you've
shoot.
probably even looked at it yet. Um, but when you when you secure the metros, each of the little metros that they have, you unlock a little broom closet. I've been making jokes about it because it's freaking hilarious. You go through all this work to unlock just a little space where you can sleep. But I was wondering if it'd be possible to like make it so where you get the safe room, but the metro stays unlocked, and then the faction that you unlock it for actually inhabits the area, like replacing the enemies that actually patrol formerly with the faction you assign it to.
I mean, I love the idea. I think the challenge is that that's down to the spawn system and doing dynamic spawn pools. So basically, what you would need is a trigger that says this event causes this change to this spawn pool. Um, I would have to find the trigger. So that's probably in the story code. Maybe it's in there.
I figured it had something to do with the spawn system. I just didn't know if it would even be possible, or if any of that is even unlocked, where you can actually mess with it, or if it's locked like most of the other code.
No, that's like so. The other day, you guys mentioned the system where you get the windmills, and then you start assigning the windmills. I found the code where I found the reward system associated with that, but I didn't find any of the code that says, okay, you've given it to this faction, so therefore spawn these kind of thing. Um, and so if I can find, I mean, it would be in the same place. Let me search my bare bones here. So I've got my one that I've tried to strip out as many things as possible so I can search it without it giving me a ton of trash. Let me see if we say Metro. I'm sure it's going to find a ton of stuff here, but maybe not as much as other things. Maybe in the AI life population, Metro, they have the Metro inside, Metro outside. I think that's based on the hub, though. I think that's like the actual PK base. And then I saw this earlier. They've got the bark system, which is really confusing. The bark system I'm trying to learn more about like their bark system, which is supposed to be the system that activates things based on triggers, but most of the time they're using it for audio. Um, but down at the bottom of this AI life, you have this idea of quests that are associated with the bark system and then attributes. All the attributes they've left blank. Let me see if they've got any of these. So they've got occurrence based, spawn only area activation. So potentially this could work if you could figure out which one of these is based on which metro system. Are any of those quests?
Yeah, there is one that is a quest. The rest are just kind of, if you want to unlock them, they're not really required. And it's even a side quest, so it's not necessary. It's the bartender at the fisheye gives it to you. I can't remember what the quest is called, but I can probably look it up.
Okay. Because these are all quest based. Some of them look like they're super generic, like quest water tower. I mean, there's a lot of water towers out there, so is it saying it's going to fire this every single time the water tower happens? But based on the brackets, they're already pointing towards the event, so potentially you could use something like this where they're pointing towards what looks like a region and then prefab. The problem with these is that are these real anymore? Like, is this all junk code, or like plan connecting dots worker mail? I've never heard or seen any of these. I mean, this could be very specific ones, but set amount to spawn.
Quest is called Rats in the House. It's a side mission where you go and unlock the metro under the fisheye.
Interesting. And then also, Roland, I see your last message there. Hey, shoot me a message anytime on Discord. I'd be happy to help. Or not help necessarily, but just lend an ear in design topics and that kind of thing. I'm always working on game projects on the side myself, and so the challenge is that you have to have a pretty good team of people to pull off most games. And so I'm still looking to build a team one day. So I would love to actually have a game studio. So I would love to hear what you're working on always. See, like they've got these region 5 at the hub, and then they've got occurrence based. So between specific time zones, requires the player, it's then putting a guard there, preset occurrences. I've never looked into this kind of system yet, but I think this would probably be how you would want to go about this. So, for example, do you have a save game where that area is clear that I mean, I'm assuming so, but do you have one that you can, I mean, you've already sent that one, but it's so far back in the lists. I mean, it's somewhere in there.
I think I have one other one. I usually delete my saves after I complete the game. That way I can just start all over again.
I gotcha. Because you have this idea of like, I wish I had looked at this sooner. Because they have these percentage based, but like clan bandits. That is the so you've pulled me into a different system. I'm interested.
I tend to do that, don't I?
Yeah, it's okay. That's how I stumble onto stuff. It's always fun that way. Because they have this concept of plans. So here it's calling plans. Technically, Technically, it's assigning tags, which are then getting handed off to the spawner. Not really sure that would work for specific areas because again, that requires there be spawners inside of that environment that would use it. It would be a little bit easier if you could think of a event that may be in the game um, where you've seen stuff like that, like where it's done stuff that's similar, that you can kind of give me ideas of where you've seen something similar in the game. Just because if I can find that, then I can kind of like lean into how did they do it here, you know?
Honestly, I would think it would be under the same type of coding that they use for the windmills because it's exactly the same thing, except it doesn't actually spawn like NPCs there. It just spawns like a tower in front of the metros every time you unlock it, or it just opens them up in general if you survivors. PK is the tower,
Right.
but there's no NPCs on the towers, which I found really weird.
Yeah.
But that's one thing I could figure that it actually compares to is it gets assigned to a faction just like the windmills and power
Well,
plants and all that other stuff.
one of the things is challenging with like the tag system. So you have like the open world tags and then you have the scenario tags. Like the open world tags are broken. like they don't work correctly. Rooftops don't work. Their special ones are the reason that I was ending up with the crazy spawn results of where you would end up with all banshees or whatever. Essentially, you just pull that part of it out and the system works just fine. So I don't know how they're using their tag system, and there's not really a lot of supporting evidence on how I can improve that system. But potentially if I looked at, and I really jumped onto like the first one that I saw here. So
The fact that you got them using the crossbow is pretty fucking awesome, man. Appreciate
have we
that.
confirmed that though? I mean, we've got one sighting, but have we?
I haven't checked enough yet. I haven't actually seen any PK bowmen to clarify if they actually have it or not in my game.
Yeah.
But it's been forever in the first little section because I don't know. I just like to run around and explore shit.
Sure. I mean, I hope it works. I mean, I've heard evidence that it sounds like it did, but I also haven't visually confirmed. I thought I saw a crossbow once, but it wasn't. So it's set to like a 50-50. So the easiest way I could test is I just literally go turn off bow and arrows. Um, and then I've thought about creating some custom pools to where they have a probability that it'll either pick a bow or a crossbow, but then that would, the problem is that the PK are not their own group. They're using the generic UI or the generic AI code. And so because of that, there's no way to go to a specific file and say for these specific guys, give them these. Or maybe I'm wrong. Hang on, that's going to be in these scripts. Here's another system. We're rolling right through. We're going to go through all of them today. We're going to say, because basically you have these pools. Yeah, that's what it is. The PK, they have like the one-handed tools, the two-handed tools, but there's no PK bowman pool. They're using the generic. And so because of that, you know, I can add it to the pool that they're drawing from, which is what I did, but I can't go tell them to use that a different pool instead because none of that code is working. That's all the preset code that's just not registering. So I can't point them at a different pool. All I can do is change the pools that it's already pointing it at. So, but anyway, to your point, hopefully it works. Let's see here. 7 o'clock. Whew. can get some dinner here. Slowly but surely, always upward, right?
Yeah, for my own personal game, I have all those resources, right? But I try to balance it out a little bit. But I tripled the purchase values and upgrade values and all the requirements to actually make things. That way, I spend a lot more of those resources. Although I shouldn't really have to do that, but
Sure.
it's the only thing I could think of at the time because the how they've set up the loot system is different than the first game. I could easily just go in and tweak the values then and choose what spawns and where and how much of it and its probability and all that stuff, but it doesn't seem like it's that simple in this game.
Sure. Really quickly, let me go back and confirm some things here. Okay, so with the switch back over because I need to try to finish up before I switch, but I will add that to a list of things to look at. Basically, what I've been trying to do is when I do my playthrough, I'm going to go through and just take as many notes as I can on the storyline, holes, all that stuff, and then after 1.0, I'm going to try to work on storyline specific parts, and we'll see what we get. But Metro.
Makes me wonder if any of the cut content is actually in there. I mean, you found a little snippets here and there, but I'm talking about the more like
talking about storyline stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, most of it is. It's just the problem is that you start to enable stuff and they have like, in my experience, it all relies on stuff that's either no longer in the game and that kind of thing. So most of the time you start messing with this stuff and you just brick your game. You have to like dial it all the way in for that. Escape from sunlight. I'm gonna switch over to a save game and see if I can just use that save game. I think I'm gonna just try to search for yours here, Vic.
I already deleted that save in preparation for this playthrough.
Have you already got rid of it?
Yeah, it's already gone.
Let's see.
It's like the eighth or ninth one. You know, I've played through this game so many times already.
Yeah.
That's why I look at it and I'm like, I don't try to see the holes. They just occur to me, and then it's like once I see them, I can't unsee it.
Yeah, you're going down that hole, man, where you're sitting there going like, oof, this is just terrible.
Yeah, and I don't even mean to, man, but like some of it just makes no damn sense, and I'm just like, I can tell that they like easy baked this shit and just kicked it out the door. Maybe it's probably due to their executives' constraints and just said, hey, 6 months, get it out now with whatever you have.
Yeah.
because it seems like they just rushed it right out. And because you can look at things and you can see that they're in the files. There's a whole other faction choice, which in the trailer there was these many options and all this other stuff that just wasn't in the game.
Sure. Well, I think that they had a lot of shifting things for their company. I can't really at this point, with the amount of different things I've seen, I can't really say one way or the other. It feels like a lot of that stuff was kind of on the fly decision making just to get it out the door, kind of thing. Which I can imagine would be incredibly frustrating as a fellow developer. I can't even imagine what that would be like under duress, and so I can't really put the blame on any of them. I think probably more.
No, I put the blame mostly on the whoever's doing their marketing.
Yeah.
Because I mean, shit, they announced the game, and then they delayed the game, and then delayed it, and then they delayed it 5 times. And I'm like, obviously, people at that point are just like, is the game ever going to come out, or are you just, bullshitting us? So they probably just forced it out the door based on that.
Sure. Well, hopefully that doesn't become the case with the mod for 1.0. I'm getting it out, I promise.
Nah, take your time. You're not under time constraints like they were. And I think they weren't even under them. They could have just released the trailer and just went silent until they were actually ready to release the damn thing. But I don't know, for whatever reason, they're like, oh, we'll release it here. And then, okay, we're not ready. We're not ready again.
They may have, when it comes to that kind of stuff, they may have threatened to axe the game,
Oh, that's true.
I mean, they could have. I mean, I don't know if you remember, there was a what was it? Dead Island 2? There was a Dead Island 2 way back that was in California or some shit, and it got axed. They had the testable demos, they had the pools, they had the palm trees, they had all that stuff worked out, and that one bit the dust. So if that one could bite the dust, then Dying Light 2 could bite the dust,
Yeah, but I don't think Dead Island was honestly as popular as Dying Light was, or at least it didn't seem that way.
Well, it came out. It came out before Dying Light, so
yeah,
they probably killed Dead Island 2 to make more room for Dying Light.
Could be. I heard it changed like companies like 3 or 4 different times, and had like 4 or 5 different teams on it, and they just like nobody knew what the hell was going on.
Yeah. Which has got to be just, as a developer, that has just got to be the worst.
Oh yeah, new team. And you're like, okay, hey, you have all this work done. Is it what you want? No. So you go through and redo what you want. Then it gets passed on to somebody else, and it's like, okay.
See, I wonder if I can. I really wonder if I can potentially, so the volatiles can see, or the virals can see outside. They kicked it off, they run to the sunlight, so that code didn't work, they're still not attacking. But hang on. Looks like we've got that glitch. I'm gonna die. I feel like this was the case 5 seconds ago. I think the virals were actually attacking a second ago, so that's interesting. Definitely seen that one way too many times. So if I step inside though, now all of a sudden the threat indicators show up. Now they can attack. Now they can attack. We step outside. They can't attack. Oh shit. Well. That is interesting. Get down here. Let's go back up. So potentially I can look at. I was just about to say, I was like seconds away from saying like, oh, maybe I can look at the viral code. The viral code's working. Attack. Stand outside. Oh shit! Need to find a better ledge. Need to go back to the other side. Set it ready.
Well, either way, you're gonna have some more infected to play with, hopefully by the end of the month, according to their DLC nonsense.
Did they release? Did they say they were going to put out new special infected?
Yeah, that's the event for. It said special infected events for this month. That's their release for their little roadmap.
Interesting. I
And
feel
then there's
like
the
I missed
patch.
that detail of it.
Yep, April is special infected. Then there's a couple. The following months are like parkour challenges, so nothing remotely important. And then
Actually, I do remember that. There was one. What was the one special infected they kind of teased or whatever? Didn't they say what it was going to be?
I have no idea. I didn't see anything about it. All I saw was that it was coming this month.
I swear I thought I saw, and I wonder if that's going to come with the update, of course. So
Probably.
follow these guys. Come on, hurry up, get off of here.
Then I'm probably going to be salty about something else.
Yeah, I'm sure.
They're going to mess with something. I'm going to see it. I'm like, damn it.
It was better the original. I'll tell you what, I scoured the internet trying to find a playable version of the game for Dying Light 1 before they released the Pursuit, where they just redid so many systems with the Pursuit. I'm like, just give me the other one back. Like, I just couldn't find it, man. Everybody was so excited. They're like, the new version. And so the older versions just all started to disappear. It made me so sad because I'm sitting there like, the mod worked perfect with that version. I have to find it. Couldn't get it.
Isn't there a way to revert your saves on Steam back to an original version?
The saves, yes, but the core logic was the thing that they broke. They redid the, I'm specifically referring to how they redid the zombie movement systems. So they made it to where you can't, it's all protected to where you can't go in there and modify any of it. They've done essentially the same thing with this one. All of it's protected. You can't change any of it. All you can do is change them to different AI. You can't write any
put
locomotion
thing on you.
code. They've got it all sealed away.
They're like, he's coming. The moment we release this, he's gonna outdo our work. We have to shut that down ahead of time.
I appreciate the compliment. I can't say, it was fun, but I can't say it was the prettiest work ever. It made the game scarier, but I wouldn't say it's the prettiest thing. Alright, so I'm sitting here messing around for a while there. There's the dark zone attack. So if you step into the dark zone, they know how to attack. They come after you, you step out of the dark zone, and they become idiots. So, I have to figure out, he's doing such a good job creeping on me, attacking, getting over objects. I mean, he really is just, I feel like he does better on this interior than he does outside sometimes. I feel like he's just doing an awesome job of navigating this space. Which is great. I can't say the same for the Goon, but his pathfinding is just excellent. Interesting. So, if the virals are the same way, I also noticed the spitters are the same way. So the spitters can't, all they can do is walk and shuffle outside, they can't actually attack either. So there's something that is saying that if you're in the sunlight, you can't attack. Because technically right now he should be able to attack. There's no reason he can't. It's starting to piss me off. Oh, I know. Let's use our handy dandy machine gun.
Yeah, I got that gun itch for this game.
He wins. So let's go back to the sunlight reaction code. Let's go back to their core logic file. I really want to get this. I really want to try to figure out. So potentially it could be an AI related system if all of this special infected are getting affected by it. So maybe let's go over here and say, maybe this is the common, yeah. So in common, maybe we do like this. Maybe we go in here and say line, say open folder, common, a dark. Ooh. Infected escape from sunlight. What's that? Escape from sunlight. Maybe in here, I can use the same code for the UV logic. Say, basically, track the player. It's parallel. So underneath infected escape from sunlight, we say, are they in the sunlight? Next, to say is night ending, go find a safe zone. So this first one is the one that says if they're in the sunlight. So in between here and retreat, we will run in parallel. Hopefully they have a target at that time. They also have to be in combat for this to work. I think if none of these were true, it would just move on. And then again, we got this idea of the volatile attacks. So we're using the attack code to say do this one attack. And if they're not doing that one attack, fall back. So then it goes. And then here we want to go down and say, we're not going to taunt. We're not going to do the back and forth bullshit. We're just going to say, try to attack. I guess in that case, it doesn't run until failure. Then save here, close the log. And then this is actually maybe where my stutter bug is coming from, to be honest. Now that I think about it.
Yeah, it seems like that's playing in the like attack animations because it doesn't seem like they all do it.
Yeah, I thought originally, so I had a similar one happen when it was just the bowman, and then I thought I fixed that, and then now I saw the other day that I had the one-handed guys doing it, and then I had the bowman doing it. So I think it's going to be something that's applying to their movement. It's trying to give them an action every single second. So it's in update. And so I have to, I'm still trial and erroring that one. See what sticks. But it could be potentially something that I've set up in this common file. So I was trying to do this with the common file first. I was basically trying to get them walking around, investigating, and doing stuff. Just trying to get them to do some stuff. They weren't really doing a lot. Let me see if doing this, and then potentially with the volatiles, let's go in here and say escape from sunlight. Let's give them the same condition. Parallel. Basically said before. Needs to say here. This needs to say here. Well, I keep wondering with this update to the AI by adding this new AI special infected, I'm a little worried that they're going to hide or cut off the behavior code. So a lot of what I've done at this point is behavior code related.
Well, they said that they weren't going to be as strict as they were on the first game with modding and all that stuff, and they said that eventually they intended on releasing the developer tools for the game.
Sure.
I would say that'd be way down the line, but you know, it's something.
Yeah, I think it was about a year and some after Dying Light came out before they released the map editor. So probably around the same time for this one. I really hope that they allow. Basically, I think what they're doing is that they're trying to protect their files, which I get. They're trying to protect a lot of their files, and so I think what they're doing is that they're giving their tools that they're releasing access to some of the archives, but then it doesn't have access to all of the archives. So that way you can't open up the main career maps and all that good stuff. And I don't know, maybe they'll release the full thing this time. That would be great. All right, so we got a spit. Oh, that was actually great. Other than these guys are definitely still broken. Not you. So we gotta figure out why they're broken, because I feel like that's relatively new. Walk in here, you can spits. Jeez. Gotta do some clean house here. Volatile came out, but he didn't attack. Sound isn't working properly. He's even down to like the specific cell, so she couldn't actually. I guess I have to write some conditionals for her too. So what I'm thinking is that I'm gonna have to go in here and say, basically attack indoors, and maybe try to write some basic attack code for what to do when inside of a dark place. These guys are receiving updates for what to do in here. You end up down here. Actually, no, it did that. That's weird. Really don't feel like that's very good. Is it supposed to look like this, Vic?
Hold on. Let me take a look.
Interesting.
Oh, with that area thing.
Yeah, it's doing like this like chrome effect or like this weird displacement effect.
Yeah,
Like,
I've never seen that.
I didn't even know you could do that. If you hold down your grenade or whatever, it brings on this effect, which I feel like is like a damn strobe light or something.
It kind of looks like it. I usually throw it before then because I already know where I'm gonna place it.
Yeah, I didn't. It's like a force-filled bubble on top of a flashing indicator. You can see the effect on the wall. I mean, I've made these for like shits and giggles inside the Unity game engine for just for shader detection, for edge detection and stuff. It makes little to no sense on why there would be like a edge detection for this type of indicator. I mean, look at that level of distortion. It's like crazy. I mean, it's a cool effect, I guess, but it's like strobing out. Like,
That's probably why there's the seizure warning in front of the game.
well, and there's that glitch right there in EQ. You can actually hear him too. That's the fun part. But if you walk up against him, walk. Setting. So I figured out why this is happening with the bowmen. To figure out why they attack in such short distances. And, yeah. And I'm not sure I love the answer, and I think it's basically because I'm giving basic melee guys bows, and they're not official like bowmen. They're one-handed guys with bows. And
So they're playing their
because of that-
one-hand attack animation.
No, I think the issue is that they're receiving the attack distance code for the melee weapons, and I've tried to boost up everything, and it worked. And that's what upset me is that when I turn up the melee distance, they actually shoot a good ways away, but then the melee guys break. They just like start swinging off in a distance kind of thing. They don't actually get close enough to attack. And so, I think it's because the bowmen are actually one-handed guys versus bowmen. And then if you go find the actual bowmen, they work just fine. So the bowman guys work no issue. They're able to, like, over a distance, fire at enemies and that kind of thing. The ones that are having the problems are the ones that I've given bows that are not meant to be which is a little disheartening. I'm probably gonna have to figure out some like additional solution there, but also I guess this is the Romero version, but I feel like more of the map should be coming down on me right now. For some guys, I think they're also fighting. I think they're over here fighting like actual NPC guys as well. I think their response time is actually pretty slow inside the city because they're having to traverse the entire city. I guess that was another thing I should check is does the UV light actually... And then also I need to create So I'm here, remembering all the things. Oh, this guy could create all the shotguns. Left finger of Glova. We can craft 14 of them. So wait a second. So based on our discussion the other day, Vic, I thought I guess I misunderstood. I didn't realize they actually had weapon crafting in here.
Yeah, I've actually not unlocked those yet in my gameplay. I'd have no idea where to get them from. Probably side quests, but they do a couple weapons anyway. Not very. Just the ones that you see there, I think, are the only ones.
That's okay. If they're doing it once, that means I can get it. I know how to do it.
Expand it.
That's
Just copy and
good enough
paste
for
all
me.
the weapon names from the first game into the second game.
Well, I've been looking to see if I can port over the first game into this one, and I've had very little success at that. But I'm still trying to figure that out. But in this case, I can make crafting like actually a thing where you craft basic weapons kind of thing. Also, crazy here. There it is, UV bar. You were about to call me crazy. All right. Yeah, as I still haven't turned off the survivor tool just because I've been using the hell out of it for testing. Once I'm
I figured as much.
Once I'm confident I no longer need it, definitely be axing it.
What, you don't like seeing through walls?
I do not. Seems like that would take the edge off. Oh, you're telling me I'm about to encounter these exact things around that corner that I can't see around?
I'm really hoping they add some, like, the hives stuff, the unique stuff that they put, like, in the first game. Like, all the dark zones and stuff felt really unique. In this game, it feels like they're literally all copied and pasted.
Yeah.
Like, you go to the Revenant spots, they all virtually look very similar, if not the same. And there's just, like, it's not really unique.
Ooh, shit.
Same with the hospitals.
Yeah, so I'm curious to get to that part in there or in the game just because I feel like that is kind of the gist here is that they had a concept, they rolled with the concept, they didn't have time to add on to it. So for the initial release, they just got it playable. And it does kind of feel like they're gonna probably go in there and change things and try to overhaul. But I guess the problem for me with that is that it, you know, A, that's probably going to break a lot of stuff over a long period of time, but also it kind of sucks that they're doing maybe what they did with the first game, which is that, you know, the initial release is so-so, and then, you know, 7 years from now we'll actually be playing the game.
Yeah, I know, right?
You know what I mean?
I remember seeing the what was it?
Here's the Bandit Bowman.
I see. I haven't been seeing them in Old Villador though. Like I saw them like one time, and then they were glitching, and then I like never saw them again. But I meant to. I asked you earlier. I think you got in here before you saw it. But I was wondering if they spawned it on like a probability deal.
I think with the weapons that it's currently using the. Let's see which. Oh shit! Has that always worked with the spitters? I didn't realize you could yank spitters around like that. I thought spitters did that normal little, like, you know, they've been kicked, barely hit kind of thing.
No.
I didn't realize I could do that with those guys. So it's doing it based on a probability of the of their roll. So it's essentially going in there and it's giving every single one of them a bow. And then based on a probability, it's assigning either they equip their melee weapon or they equip their bow kind of thing. So volatiles are still not fixed. They're still crawling around like idiots. This one's actually not even really reacting to sunlight anymore. But it could be because like this zone is not in UV light or some nonsense. So let's see here. Where can we get you? He's out here. That's gonna kill him actually. Sorry, buddy. Huh. I'm gonna start wrapping up for the day. Probably end up trying to look at a couple of these things better tomorrow. Have a little bit more time to flush through some of these things. But I am noticing movement glitches and a couple other things that I don't love. But I need to continue on with the crafting system. It looks like now that I know that you can actually craft weapons, I'm super excited about that. Is this the one that everybody has been talking about, that everybody was upset because they nerfed it or something like that?
Not the weapon. It's the charm that they nerfed, and they fixed it back. I think it's actually cheaper than it was before, but it wasn't hard fix. I just went in there and reverted it. Took like 10 seconds, but like they were all up in arms about it. The funny thing was they were all pissed about a charm that you can literally fix yourself. But the drops, the more important one, they just left, and I don't really get it, but you know, whatever.
Well, I think the challenge is that, you know, PC players can fix it, but, you know, poor Xbox players, you know, they're just
Poor Xbox players.
Oh, look at that. Okay, so it caused him to retreat out of one dark zone. Is he just retreating? He's just retreating. Like, all the way retreating. Wow. Yeah, you can pause that. obviously my retreating code isn't working. He's still doing it, and that was definitely a glitched jump. Come on, he did not jump that far. So let's follow him until he dies. Confirm that he's actually dying. This is the code I was trying to stop or trying to fix earlier. It just doesn't look like I got it. Go on, bud.
Across the map.
Made him angry. Is he coming after me? Oh. 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 He don't know what he's doing. He's attacking in the daylight. I just glitched him all the way out. He's just like, F you, dude. Stop following me. He's just full of anger. He found some medicine.
Oh yeah, it's pretty cool at night. Whenever you watch them, you get into a chase and then run into a PK outpost, like 13 PK. They just get mauled by Volatile.
I guess the question is that, like, this is the daylight. So they're working, my attack is working, but he had to be pulled out of it. So he was retreating, and then I hooked him when he was in the middle of his retreat, and I think that pulled him out of retreat. So that's good news. That means the code does work. It's just maybe a timing issue. So let's see. Now that I know that, let's go find out again. Need a UV flare. Ultimate retreat. Bye, Felicia. Let's see. Yeah. Alright, here we go. So then he starts retreating. Grapple him. And he's like, pitch please. Big attack. Huh. That's more like investigation. So he's getting activated to investigate a target. Maybe it's a distance thing. Maybe I got him to run a certain amount of distance. So that stopped his retreat code. But this code is what I need to put in for searching the city. So what he's doing exactly right here. Here, kitty. If I do that. Let's see if he attacks this guy.
I also watched a video that I hadn't seen prior, but it was like a month right before the release of the game, and they were talking about putting some stuff in, like having to do with resources, like keeping up your faction's resources in certain zones and stuff like that, and like building your own like outposts or base or some nonsense.
Interesting.
I'm curious if they'll actually put any of that stuff in. I don't even see how they would do it with the current how the game is, but I mean, I suppose it's possible, like a pre-build where you just decide what kind you want.
Sure. Okay. Now he's pissed. So it's a distance thing. So he's running and retreating a certain distance, and then snapping him out of it, he gets hit, and now all of a sudden, wakey, he's now pissed. Boy, is he pissed. I do find it interesting that they've got these creatures that have these like mouths and everything. Call me crazy, but they don't use them. They use like their claws or whatever, which, just to keep it lore friendly here, we're talking rabies, right?
Yeah, so you'd think they'd be biting everything.
Right? You know.
And the funny thing is they reference that right at the very beginning of the story. You get bit by a volatile.
Yeah, right?
But they don't actually do it.
And then they go out and they do this like, and I was just watching this because I was watching kind of like their animation, so I'm in animation side as well. And so I was watching his animations and going like, they mocap the hell out of that. So they did mocap, and that's cool. But he's kind of like he's like hardcore Catwoman, is how I would put it. He's like
I know, right?
doing all the Catwoman attacks, but also like putting his full body into it, which is, I mean, it's neat. But I'm just sitting there going like, did they add any biting? Because even here, is he gonna bite me? Well, he headbutts me, I guess, or something. It could have been a bite. Okay, so to finish this up, he's basically on the retreat side. Go here. Changes. Interesting. Where's my retreat code? No, I didn't put it in the... Ah, crap. I did that in the extracted files, not in the mod. Come on. Amateur hour up in here. Let's see. AI. It's going to be all the way down to viral. Well, so we know that it's not messing up because of what I did earlier as far as the virals go. So I need to figure out why the virals are not doing their attack. Oh, that's right. It's because of the exteriors, because of this dark zone thing. So they're being spawned in the dark zone. Potentially that's changing their behavior because they're being spawned into a dark zone. And so because of that, I need to find what's causing certain things not to activate. Which, let's see, general think we only have one spawner. And it's not like the spawner is adding a dark zone consideration here. So what if we go to our AI tree and we say dark zone? We got the Banshee, biter update. Oh, I didn't think about the update having that. But that's for the and the problem. Here it is. This operator kill self. What is that actually attached to in vanilla? Banshee. React on damage or killed if out of mesh. Behavior places, conditions. So they're only using is in dark zone code. Using it. So there is no concept from what I'm seeing here about being spawned in a dark zone. About DZ. I know that's in everything. No. So potentially the UV beam is causing. Hey Roland, welcome back, man. Well, it's going okay, I guess. Basically, with the UV stuff, the dark zone code is somehow causing. If they're spawning into the dark zone, it applies to pretty much all special infected. They're not able to attack outside of the dark zone. So something is taking their spawn and their init code to say if they are spawned in a dark zone, don't do this. And that doesn't really make sense. I'm not really sure why they would set that up, but I feel like they are. Alright guys, I need to go grab some dinner and just get away from the code for a little bit, think about this a little bit more, but there is something about these dark zones that is executing some code for these guys that is only happening to the infected, so it's not happening to the biters. So that actually gives me a little hope that that there's some way to target that and figure out a way to say, okay, with the special infected, what is being set versus the biters, so that we can start to see if we can find that trigger. But it's a little weird that it's like all infected, that it's affecting right now. All right, guys. Thank you for joining me. Thanks for hanging out, Vic. As always, good talking to you, man. I hope, as
Take it
always,
easy,
I've
man.
jotted down some notes. Keep looking. And it's been fun. Roland, good talking with you too. And hope to talk to you guys here next time. But I'm going to take a break and come back to this in a little bit.
All right, man. Take it easy.
Talk to you guys later.